Once upon a time, in a village nestled between silver hills and thick green woods, there stood a house that cast no shadow. It was not broken, it was not cursed, but the villagers would tell their children that house was built with a debt. Its shutters were always closed, its chimney never smoked, no birds perched on its roof, no flowers dared grow beneath its windows. But on the 7th night of each month, someone would place a basket of food and herbs at its crooked front door. By morning, the basket would be gone. No one asked where it went, no one knocked, no one stayed near long enough to see, except for Lina. Lina was 12 years old and terribly curious, the kind of curious that made cats look cautious. She asked too many questions, climbed trees just to see what birds saw, and once followed a fox for nearly a mile just to ask it where it was going. Her mother was a seamstress who stitched by moonlight. Her father was a woodsman who left gifts of honey on stumps for the forest spirits. They loved her very much, but whenever Lina asked about the shadowless house, their answers were always the same. It is not for us to know. That answer did not satisfy Lina. So, on the 6th night of the month, while her parents were asleep and the stars blinked slowly in the sky, Lina tiptoed from her bed, slipped on her cloak, and carried a lantern down the winding village path. She hid behind the baker's shed and waited just before midnight. A hunched figure in a long blue coat shuffled down the road. He carried a basket lined with lavender and bread, and he placed it gently at the door of the house. He did not knock. He did not speak. He only bowed, turned, and left. Lina stared at the house. It did not creak. It did not breathe. It simply waited. And so did she. Lina waited until the sky began to pale and the birds dared sing again. When she was sure no one was watching, she tiptoed across the grass and stood before the door of the house with no shadows. It was taller than she expected, and the wood felt warm beneath her fingertips, like something sleeping just under the surface. The basket was gone. She knocked once. Nothing. Twice. Still nothing. On the third knock, the door creaked open just a little, just enough for a voice, small and dry as old leaves, to say, "Only if you're certain." Lina's heart thumped, but her hand did not tremble. "I am," she said. The door swung open. Inside, the house smelled of thyme, smoke, and rain. Candles burned without flames. Books whispered softly to one another on their shelves. A staircase curved like a question mark into the dark. Lina stepped inside, and the door shut behind her. The stairs didn't creak, though they looked old enough to sigh with every step. As Lina climbed, the air grew cooler, not cold, but careful, like it was watching her. She passed mirrors that reflected nothing, picture frames with no faces, and a window that showed only night, though outside it was already morning. At the top of the stairs sat a door carved with symbols she didn't recognize. A spiral, a feather, a tear. She knocked once. The door opened on its own. In it was a room filled with clocks, tall ones, tiny ones. Some ticked backward, others ticked twice with every second. In the center of the room sat an old woman in a velvet chair, her hands folded neatly on her lap. Her hair was white as frost, and her skin looked like pressed parchment. "You're early," the woman said, not kindly. "I didn't mean to be," Lina replied. "Few ever do." The woman smiled, "But they come anyway." She leaned forward, eyes bright. "Tell me, child, what do you think lives in a house with no shadow?" Lina thought for a moment, then said, "Something that hides where light cannot reach." The old woman's smile widened. "Then perhaps you've come at the right time after all." The old woman rose from her chair without making a sound. "Come," she said, and walked toward a door Lina hadn't noticed before. Small, wooden, arched like a doorway in a dream. As it opened, warm golden light spilled out, brighter than any candle, but soft like sunrise through lace. Inside was a garden, not outside the house, but somehow within it. It stretched far beyond the walls, filled with trees that shimmered silver and flowers that bloomed only when you looked away. At the garden's center stood a stone pedestal, and on it a box, no bigger than a loaf of bread, wrapped in red ribbon. "What is this place?" Lina whispered. The old woman's eyes sparkled. "A promise," she said, "and a test." She gestured to the box. "It is meant for someone who asks, not out of fear or greed, but out of care. You knocked, you stepped inside, you listened, so it may be yours." Lina stepped closer. "What's inside?" "A choice," said the woman, "and like all choices, once opened, it cannot be undone." Lina looked at the ribbon. It pulsed softly beneath her fingertips. She did not know what waited inside, but she did know one thing: she would never go back to pretending the house did not exist. Lina untied the ribbon slowly, carefully. The knot slid free without resistance, like it had been waiting for her. The box opened with a soft sigh. Inside was a mirror, small, oval, set in a frame of carved ashwood. Its surface shimmered, but it showed no reflection. Not hers, not the old woman's, not even the golden garden behind them. Instead, it showed a village her village, empty, silent. The windows were shuttered, the chimneys still, the trees bare. Then she saw herself, standing in the center of the square, older, taller. Alone, she looked into the mirror's image of herself, and the image looked back. It raised one hand and pointed. Behind Lina, she turned. The garden was gone. The house was gone. The sky above her was gray, swirling like smoke caught in glass. The old woman was nowhere in sight. She clutched the mirror tight. It was cold now. Then a whisper came from the box, the voice of the house itself. To carry light is to carry its shape, and now so must you. Lina tried to run, but the path beneath her feet no longer led anywhere. It twisted in place, looping through fog and flickers of rooms that had once been the house. The mirror in her hand pulsed like a heartbeat, and every time she looked into it, she saw not where she was, but where she might be. She called out not for help, but for answers. And the house answered. Rooms unfolded like pages of a book. In one, a child cried without tears. In another, a table was set for a feast no one would eat. A door opened to a forest that did not exist, and another to her own home, but empty, dust-covered, forgotten. She understood now. The house did not trap people. It waited for someone to remember. The old woman's voice echoed, though she was still unseen. You ask why we leave the basket, why we don't knock, why we don't look. Lina clutched the mirror tighter. Because you were afraid, she whispered. The voice smiled in her ear, and you weren't. Then came the final door, plain, wooden, no carvings, just a small plaque that read, yours. She reached out. Lina opened the door. On the other side was her village, not as it had been, but as it might become. The sky was bright, but the sun cast no shadows. The people moved gently, silently, as if in a dream, and in the center of it all stood the house. Not crooked now, but tall and whole, its windows wide, its door open. Children played on the grass beside it. The shutters no longer hid anything. The house had returned to the village, or perhaps the village had returned to the house. Lina stepped through. As her foot crossed the threshold, the mirror in her hand melted into light. It curled around her fingers, up her arms, across her chest, and vanished. The world blinked once. Then it was just Lina, standing at the edge of a place that had waited too long to be remembered. Behind her, in the real village, the people awoke that morning to find the shadowless house gone. Only a field remained, and in the center of that field grew a single tree, tall, silver-leaved, and always in bloom. No one knew where Lana had gone, but sometimes when the wind passed through the branches, it whispered, "Only those who ask may enter." And no one knocked again